Welcome to LedgerCast, a podcast about cryptocurrency and the blockchain space. My name is Brian Krogsgaard, and I'm joined today by my regular co-host, Josh Olszewicz. He's been out a couple of weeks, so I'm excited to have him back. In this episode, we talk about a lot of the volatility that's gone on in the Bitcoin pricing arena especially, and we also talk about some of the news that's happened, the impetus for the dump, and what we think a recovery looks like. Just while we recorded this episode, the price went up maybe $1,000, but we've seen lows down into the low 9,000 range. And there's a lot of concern about what's happening in the market. So we break that down. We go over the charts and everything in addition to the news. It may be helpful for some people to follow along visually. We screencasted this episode so that you can watch it on YouTube. There's a link to that in the show notes if it will be helpful for you. But you'll also catch the majority of what we're discussing just through the audio. Hope you enjoy this podcast. If you do like it, you can rate us, and especially would appreciate if you give us a review in iTunes. That helps a lot for helping others find the show. And better yet, just share this episode with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you do that sort of thing. We would greatly appreciate that as well. That's enough from me. I hope you enjoy the show, and here we go. Hello and welcome to another episode of LedgerCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard, and I'm here with my usual co-host again, Josh. I'm happy to have you back.
Happy to be back, Brian. Crazy times, my friend.
Yeah, you conveniently pieced out for the dumpening. How'd that work?
It was my exit scam, guys. I hate to break to you.
So since we last talked, a lot's gone on in the Bitcoin market, as most listeners are going to know. So today, we thought it would be fun to do a market overview, which includes news of the week, of course, but also we'll go over kind of what we're thinking related to Bitcoin. I know I'm pretty sad. My working pitchfork and not really an ascending triangle, but I tried to force it into one, got obliterated the past couple of days. So because of the beauty of technical analysis, now we just get to draw new things and act like that's the new pattern. So that's what we're looking at. So let's get started with the news. So what do we have on the agenda today?
Well, so BitConnect folded finally. Kind of surprised it took this long. Until legislative or whatever action, legal action. I think it was Texas was the place where they finally brought the hammer down. Very clearly a Ponzi scheme the entire time. Very clearly not following most rules, like giving out investment advice, on YouTube and ads and things like that. Just a complete disaster. So when multiple people tell you something's a Ponzi scheme who likely know better and aren't just trying to get you to buy their bag, okay? If you lost money in BitConnect, you have to realize why you lost money in BitConnect, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and BitConnect, I really never looked much into it, but it's basically a referral program, I guess. Do you never own the coins, or do you have to refer people to get access to your coins? What was the deal with it? I knew it was a Ponzi based on the pyramid reversal system, but I don't even really know exactly.
I don't know too much about it either. I don't know its use case other than lending is what I saw anyway, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah. Well, there was a great exit video. The Trevon James guy is kind of the voice of BitConnect on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he talked about how it's all over. You win, whatever. But I don't know. I don't think they're giving up yet. But I'm really happy to see this.
Apparently there's a BitConnect X coming, a Ponzi fork. So when the Ponzi's are back, that's when we know that we're in a bull market again.
Yeah, when the Ponzi's fall apart, it's a sign that a correction is underway. That's how Ponzi's end. So
yeah, but seriously though, people are so just not stammering, but pounding at the gate to get in the market. They'll do anything, including buy a mining contract from Kodak. Stupid stuff like that.
Oh, that was a piece of news I forgot about.
That surprised me a lot because Kodak is a legitimate company, and then to have them try to pull this mining contract scam, like complete scam, no doubt about it. It makes me wonder, like who made those decisions for them, and what were they thinking? Because that's just...
What even happened with the way they structured that? Like, I saw that it was a mining contract and it was some kind of 3-year thing, but I really didn't even understand what they were doing. I just know their stock went crazy.
Well, it looked like cloud mining type deal where it's like, give us X amount of money, you're guaranteed X amount of returns over X amount of time. It's basically what it came down to.
Yeah, that's the way a scam works. When you
their stock, like you said, exploded.
Yeah, I think it went up 3x in like an hour or something really dumb like that. BitConnect still trades $20 right now, 21. It's down 90%. I'm sure whoever was in the...
Can you buy it on Polo or whatever though?
No, I don't. Was it ever on Polo?
Or Bittrex or Binance? I don't even know where it's traded, to be honest.
It's on HitBTC and Coin Exchange still.
Okay.
And even 24-hour volume is like per exchange 10 million, 6 million, 7 million. So I have no idea why, but there are people out there buying and selling. It's down.
Buy the dip, man. Buy the effing dip.
I think it's down less now than it was yesterday. So somebody's buying the dip. This is even worse than buying like the Segwit 2x fork, which I think you can still trade on Bitfinex. So yeah.
Speaking of scams, whatever happened to that? Weren't they going to release? I thought there was a team releasing like a 2x fork.
I think they did. Maybe they delayed the time frame. I don't know. Okay. It's another scam. I think whoever picked it up, Jeff Garzik, said that he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
All that. So just total scam. You mentioned
there's other forks too that I missed. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to tie a bow on BitConnect. You mentioned that you're surprised it took this long. I'm actually glad because it took a couple of months or so during kind of Bitcoin's rise and some of these bigger altcoins rise. But BitConnect was like on the top 10 market cap for a little while. So it kind of getting pushed down the page a little bit in market cap before it fell apart, I felt like kind of helped protect the overall ecosystem. Like if it was still in the top 10 or something, I think that could have been more dangerous if it exploded then versus being whatever it was before they made this announcement, like 25th or something on the crypto market cap page. So I'm kind of glad it waited a little bit.
Well, I think the whole like Bitcoin Cash ticker confusion actually fueled BitConnect a lot because people were buying the wrong thing and not knowing any better. At least where it was tradable, which admittedly wasn't very many places. But I know when the BitConnect thing got announced, or the Bitcoin Cash thing got announced, I'm pretty sure BitConnect jumped really hard that day. Maybe it was a coincidence, I don't know. But I think it was people not knowing what the ticker was. It wasn't still not straightforward if it's BCC or BCH. It's mainly BCH, but Bittrex still uses BCC, which is BitConnect. No, that's the first time I actually heard about BitConnect was when they were deciding on the tickers for Bitcoin Cash, and Bittrex went with BCC, and BCC already existed for BitConnect. So, yeah, interesting.
So a couple more Bitcoin fork scams that are out there. One is Bitcoin or United Bitcoin, which that's where now Jeff Garzik has channeled his energy is on United Bitcoin, and I think that one is being airdropped to Bitcoin holders and also select other coins like Qtum or Quantum, whatever the QTUM coin. And I held that. I felt dirty holding that. I got rid of it once it kind of broke down from whatever I was looking at. But I think that had like a 8-to-1 airdrop that helped cause the Qtum run, and then the even newer one. Anyway, United Bitcoin, I think they are also kind of hiding the date. All of these are conveniently kind of hiding the date in order to pump their other coins. United Bitcoin's supposed to be sometime late January, I think, for that airdrop or whatever. And then the latest one has been the Z Classic Bitcoin private fork, which is pretty scammy to me. I could be, maybe I'm wrong, but to me it seems like somebody, I can't remember the guy's name, Rhett, probably accumulated a lot of Z Classic down here in the cheap range, and then they made the announcement that Z Classic would be getting Bitcoin private coins, and I think it went like 15,000% up or something ridiculous. So that's just another one. I've yet to see any reasoning why this needs to be called Bitcoin anything at all. I know the same guy that is the main developer is a big Bitcoin Cash person, but this to me feels like some kind of big cash grab, just like all the other ones. Although there does seem to be some development around it. The whole take the Bitcoin name thing, that aspect of it seems unnecessary to me versus just why can't it still be Z Classic, which was his project in the first place. So I've seen no explanation for why that's not the case other than they wanted to pump the coin. Have you heard of this
Bitcoin,
one?
I have. Bitcoin God as well from Chandler Guo. Or Guo, however you say that.
I have no idea what that one is. Haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it either, but I mean, yeah, when scams are at their peak, isn't that like when the market's the hottest, right? Again, it's like the BitConnect thing. So when the forks are popping, that's when we know the market's back, baby.
Or maybe in this case, the top was in a little bit.
Yeah, they're probably, a lagging indicator, perhaps.
Yeah,
just the amount. There was 6 in December, at least, maybe 8 or more. I can't remember, like Super Bitcoin. There's just so many.
Yeah, something like that. Other news going on right now. I think we've kind of debunked this one, but the South Korea news of clamping down potentially on exchanges and other stuff, basically potential regulation in South Korea. I listened to a really good podcast. I was actually their first guest, which was cool. The Coin Talk show. Self-plug. Shameless self-plug. I think I was a backup guest, but that's okay. But Jay Kang and Alan Limmer, I think it's Aaron Limmer, sorry. They came out with a show. And their second guest was a lawyer that is a lawyer in South Korea, and he's kind of following crypto both on the American and South Korean side. And I thought that interview was insightful because it talked about what he thought the true risks in South Korea were for legislation and whatnot. So he was saying that basically what they have over there is different departments are kind of saying competing things. And that's where some of this news is coming from. And it sounded like he does think there's definite potential for regulations and clamping down, or maybe even to the extent of closing down exchanges at some point in the year. But that overall, there's no ban per se or anything like that. So South Korea kind of helped start this dump that's happened over the last few days, though. So that was the impetus for it. Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, no, it definitely did create, like I said, the Brave New Coin article, like technicals look toppy-ish anyway. And all it needed was some events. And then we got like 3 or 4 events where it's like South Korea twice and then China again for who knows why, because they haven't already banned it enough already. And it's funny how Reuters was reporting on the South Korea thing, so eager to create that FUD. Whoever works there very clearly is not in the side of Bitcoin, just based on the lack of factual reporting coming out of them.
Yeah,
on multiple occasions too for the South Korea thing. I saw 2 articles that were debunked very quickly by his name's Joseph Young, I think, on Twitter. He's like a South Korean. He's a journalist somewhere, but he's a South Korean. So he knows, like your lawyer example. He's a guy who's on the ground there, and yeah, it was just departments not agreeing on what they're doing. Mainly, what I heard is that the exchanges that aren't following the KYC AML rules are being shut down regardless. And I think that's good anyway. So whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the China thing, I don't even know what they have left to ban.
Yeah.
Other than local Bitcoins, which was on the chopping block immediately after they banned the stuff last January, because that was like the last bastion of anything trading wise in China. So maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. I didn't really read into it much because I didn't really think it mattered at all. So
Yeah, and that's another issue that the guy that was on Coin Talk, what he said could be influencing some of the Korean fervor is just that a lot of that is Chinese money. So the KYC, Nathan Park is his name. So the KYC rules that they're trying to enforce in part is just to prevent essentially washing Chinese money through Korean exchanges.
that makes sense.
So there's definitely some potential pending influence that could come out of regulation and stuff out of Korea. So it's something to watch. Probably not done with our South Korea FUD in 2018.
And their premiums are still high. I don't know what they are now, but they were like earlier this week. They were like $4,000 above spot in the USD somehow. Like they were at 17K still, and we were sitting at 14, 13K. I don't really know what that was about.
I think
they
it's
just
still
have a constant premium.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty high. So
yeah.
If that ever kind of corrects down, I don't think it's on CoinMarketCap anymore. This was also what helped spur.
No, that's true.
The move down is all of a sudden there was a large shift in price down because the Korean exchanges just got removed from CoinMarketCap, and I guess enough APIs operate off CoinMarketCap to where it suddenly looked like the price of Bitcoin had dumped a lot. So thanks, CoinMarketCap.
I mean, I agree with that decision everywhere. I think any place that has zero fee exchanges listed should remove it or give it an option to, an inclusion criteria, something. Just because it always is going to inflate volume, prices, it's going to exaggerate everything. Just like the futures markets on an OKCoin or OKEX are exaggerating things, even though they're not zero fee. It always exaggerates stuff. So it is what it is. But I don't really think they made a terrible decision of removing it and or the process of removing it by not telling anybody initially. I think it's funny that, like you said, all these APIs operate off this, and or there are a bunch of people who watch CoinMarketCap still that got freaked out and are like, but they got a pretty good exit if they sold it there. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. And then let's see. Yeah, the PBOC you mentioned. The last thing I saw, this was something that I found on Twitter, and it made its way around pretty quick. But the CNBC ran this hilarious article yesterday, and I just want to read it for the sake of the fun. Have you seen what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Tether thing.
Yeah. So they said just one major cryptocurrency is gaining amid a market-wide sell-off. Tether's up 3% over the last 24 hours. And they wrote this completely seriously. Like it was perfectly serious article. And it just seems like it's straight out of the Onion for crypto, but that's just CNBC, I guess. But
yeah, they didn't know any better, obviously.
Yeah. I like
that
it.
That's an excuse, but it's just fun. I didn't even read it because I knew what the article was and how junk it was. But maybe I should go back and read it. Just because it's funny.
I just think it's got that tone of seriousness like the Onion puts in their pieces,
Yeah.
Yet so clearly a joke. It was amazing. So that's kind of the final news.
And there's some Polonia stuff going on right now that's I think the exchange is fine. I just think they have some issues with their engine or something.
Yeah, this just has been going on today, which was seems like something. We got the bulls on Twitter right now calling for that inverse head and shoulders on Bitcoin. Yeah, so there was news today about Polo having a larger sell order than coins in existence or something for Zcash and maybe Litecoin. So I don't know. Seems like it's okay, but exchange drama, if it was real, would definitely be impetus for a further drop. And this can lead us into a kind of technical analysis overview. We can talk about the state of the Bitcoin market right now.
Yeah. Well, first, let's say this. When people were asking me last week, which I either ignore or block you if you ask me this because it's just beyond annoying and you shouldn't be approaching it this way anyway by asking somebody else. What is X coin going to do for blah, blah, blah when Bitcoin pulls back or whatever? Give me a target, something like that. You have to realize, like many people other than us have talked about, like when Bitcoin gets the flu, everybody gets Ebola. Or, when Bitcoin pulls back, everything else is going to pull back much harder, typically. Not always the case. Should South Korea or China come out and say, Binance coin is the only coin we will accept in our country, you could expect everything else to pull back except Binance coin. But in every other case, in my opinion, you're always going to see the Bitcoin pullback shadow whatever the other bit pullbacks for alts are going to be. I saw ETH hit 753 or something on index, which is gross.
Wow. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's a $500 drawdown from where its highs were.
Yeah, well, it was at 14. I think it hit the high hit 1400, like 1398 or something.
Yeah. Well, as somebody that's been heavily in alts for a long time, but doing extremely well since early December, I was actually anticipating an alts drawdown anyway because they had probably overextended themselves a little bit. I was not wanting Bitcoin to fall out of the diagonals that I was watching. I was watching this pitchfork and this year-end consolidation triangle that I really wanted to be true that ended up now not being true, which people that are streaming this on YouTube can see. And a lot of people were also pointing at this bull pennant, or what it may be, bull pennant, whatever. Totally fell out of that. Also coincided with falling below the 50. And in my blockfolio, at least, Bitcoin was down, 25%, on a couple of these dailies. And then alts were down another, anywhere between, I saw from down 5% all the way down to like down 30% relative to Bitcoin. So we saw some alts lose 50% probably of their US dollar value. So my rule of thumb has been Bitcoin velocity creates a negative situation, a bad situation for altcoins. And the past couple of days, we've certainly seen a lot of velocity out of Bitcoin. That said, when Bitcoin has shown strength, altcoins have strength. When it's bounced a little bit, altcoins have responded well to that. So it's hard. It's impossible for us to get back to your original point. It's impossible for us to tell somebody like, oh, well, as soon as Bitcoin bounces back up, your altcoins will come back and, soar again. I think. Right.
And that's the problem with the people who are asking me. It's like you're either over leveraged or you're in way too deep. You don't have a trading plan. You're worried about whatever, XYZ. I understand you ask me because you think I know something, but just relax and don't worry about it. If you're not, if you're trading too much, then you should, if you're over trading or your trading size is beyond, if you're trading your rent money, stuff like that, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, that's a good idea. Because times like this happens once a quarter, the 30-50% pullbacks on everything. Typically. So it's not a surprise. I'm not surprised. I don't think most people are surprised. When I woke up below 10K this morning / afternoon, I was a bit surprised, but we're bouncing here, so I'm not concerned at all for this level where we're at now. And that pennant or whatever you have up there also coincided with edge-to-edge trade in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen this before in August 2016 when BitConnect got hacked, So it's like this stuff happens over and over again. So don't be too concerned.
you mentioned the edge to edge trade in the daily cloud. It did that in about 2 hours. But it was a good entry. And
it's crazy how these it's crazy how these high time frame edge to edge trades happen so quickly sometimes. Because I saw it when it was about 20% in the cloud, and I was like, okay, I've seen enough. And that's when I got out of whatever else I was waiting on to make a decision on. But yeah, it's crazy how quickly that happens. Go ahead.
Yeah, and depending on the exchange you were looking at, there you could have seen a TK bearish cross on the doubled cloud the day before all of that, or around that time period. It really depends on the exchange. Mm-hmm. And then the close yesterday was out of the cloud on a lot of exchanges, but not every exchange. I think Coinbase and Bitstamp, the close actually fought its way back up to the bottom of the cloud, and also that was the 100-day moving average. But of course, that didn't really matter, and we've spent most of the today kind of between the 100-day and 200-day moving average. We haven't quite touched the 200-day moving average. That would be close to 8,500 on most exchanges. I feel like too many people want to buy under 9,000 that I'm not sure that will sustain under 9,000 very well. So maybe we've seen bottom.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't buy at 19K or 17K or 14K or 13K, what are you waiting for at this point? Yeah. I'm not saying you should have bought up there. I'm just saying, like, all these people saying, I don't want to buy here, I want to wait for a pullback. Like, well, this is what it looks like,
Right. At this point, you've got your pullback. So the question is, how long will it stay there? And historically, back at least over the last year, it looks like maybe we actually touched the 200 once. I'm looking at Bitstamp now, but it doesn't really matter. In 2016, I think it hit it a few times, but for the most part, if you hit the 200 or get anywhere close to the 200, it's a pretty ripe buy opportunity. So you would think that people looking at this today, it's worth the risk and reward to buy close to the 200, even if you don't capture the 200 exactly.
Right. And this is not investment advice.
None of this is investment advice. I put that in the show notes, but we should probably say that.
Yeah, we should.
More often.
Yeah. All this is just based on TA that we're talking about. Like, I don't care about Bitcoin. I don't care about Lightning that's coming. I don't care about Rootstock. I don't care about, banks taking it. I don't care about whatever else is going on. This is only technical analysis saying that this is a good buy here based on math, based on mean reversion, basically.
Yeah, I saw another thing. Someone on Twitter, can't remember who it was, they were telling me about the time length of previous corrections versus the length of the run prior. Mm-hmm. And I guess historically there's kind of a 3-to-1 ratio there. So if you went up for a month, it might pull back for a week. And in this case, we went up for like 3 months. So therefore, we've spent about a month on the pullback. And I thought that was a really interesting correlation as well. To also hint that the pullback is probably near completion. Another fun theory that I've seen thrown around a good bit, I posted about it myself, but I was not original on this, is in regards to people playing futures in both directions. So the working theory was that people with access to the market bought up Bitcoin in the fall, helped run it to the top, and then once futures opened some shorts, and then have been shorting it down. And the futures contracts for CBOE are ending today. Today is Wednesday for people listening to this later, January 17th. And then CME contracts, I think, end next week, right?
Not sure.
I think so. So I think they end next week. So the theory that some people have is that people are trying to dump enough Bitcoin that they've held long to push the price down and create a cascading effect, and be prepared to go long on futures tomorrow, today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. That's a lot of convolution. I don't know if futures have the volume to really support that theory, but I like it as a theory. And being able to buy close to the 200 daily moving average is probably a pretty safe play for people looking at futures. So just another theory.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that a lot too. I think it's silly to say like it was one thing or it was CME being in the market. Everyone's naked shorting, stuff like that. Like, I don't care about any of that because the TA said, like, read the article on Brave New Coin that I posted. The TA was all there regardless of dates. And yes, there's definitely cyclical things.
Yeah, so you wrote a post on January 15th with the title, "The Current Bullish Pennant," in which you were quite bearish. I had a couple of people message me. So since you were doing other things, you were on Twitter the last couple of weeks. I had people messaging me as if I had like brain osmosis towards your thinking, and they were like, "Is Josh bearish here?" And I was like, "Well, sure sounded like it. What do you think? Read the article." And you kind of posted some of these things that were hinting towards correction, and mean reversion being the biggest one. Also, a pitchfork that you put in there as hinting towards this, and then the pending edge to edge with the TK cross. You put that in there. The distance from the 200 historical moves to that 200. Or, I'm sorry, this is the 850. Tell us about the 850, Josh.
Yeah, so the 850 is literally a random curve fitted EMA that hit all other four of those drops pretty evenly. Exactly.
This is on the 4 hour.
Yeah, so it's the 141 on the daily. You just, if it's anything on the 4 hours divided by 6 for the daily. So 850 divided by 6 is 141 for the daily. But yeah, that's the only reason. I didn't see that anywhere or read about it. I just saw that the 850 hit all those points pretty exactly.
So you were just playing with moving averages and found that.
Yeah, I was just playing around.
Well, I've officially changed my 100-day moving average into a 141.
I mean, that may change depending on the next trend, how the next trend works. But
no, you're stuck.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the trends, not all trends are the same, but for this one, the 141 seemed to be the, you can just call it the 140. I feel like saying 141 is silly, but the 141 seemed to react really well as a support, and it's there so far. The other part of that was that anytime we get a 4 hour 5200 cross, it hit the 141. And what happened this time, or it hit the 850 in that case. And what happened this time, we got the cross, it hit the 850. So again, nothing like crazy here, out of the ordinary. The other part about the cycles thing was just based on, quarterly cycles. This was going to be a down quarter anyway.
Yeah, it historically has been slower, I guess, in the winter.
Yeah, and like the past 4 Januaries have been bearish, double digits. I think the past 4, maybe 3 of the last 4 were double digit down. We got more China announcements in January. Like I don't know, there was just lots of stuff that lined up. Aligned correctly to say that all this was coming.
If someone believes in the 5200 cross, which I like it on lower time frames more than daily. Okay. Personally, the only reason I say that is because on daily I feel like crypto moves really fast, so you could be pretty well below, like closer to the bottom than the time to close your short by the time it actually crosses. But on the 4 hour, the 4 hour 5200 bearish cross and then subsequent retest that failed on the 50 would have gotten you out if you got out then at like 14,150 on Coinbase, which would have been a really nice exit, temporary exit, because then that's almost directly into the big dump down into the 850 on the 4 hour that you talked about, which that plays really nicely. I'm gonna have to remember that for next time.
It's funny looking at that, like on log, it doesn't look too bad. It was dump, like it's down 50% from the highs, sure, but like it doesn't look that bad on log. But if you go on linear, if you zoom out and go on linear, it looks real bad. It looks like Lehman Brothers or something.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. The current chart is pretty ugly on pretty much any time frame out of log.
And back to the daily cloud again. So for me, anytime people are asking me like, which settings do I use and why? Like for me, for what I'm looking at and the time frames I'm looking at and when I'm looking at charts, this was exactly showing me the right information I needed to know when I needed it. It showed me that the price was dipping into the cloud. That was immediately followed by the massive dump. So
how do you handle that when it's not a daily close?
When I see that there's other consolidation going on, and it's been doing stuff for a while, like you said, it broke that triangle. That was convincing enough for me. I don't know. You just have to. You have to have some finesse, I guess, or just instinct to know like when not to use a daily close as gospel.
And really, it wicked down into the daily cloud 3 times before the daily move through the cloud.
Yeah, so it got held up even by the Tenkan in the cloud. So I'm waiting until the very last second, because it could have gone up from there. It looked like it could have gone up, just like it did before BitConnect got hacked. It reminding me so much of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some other news that we don't know about yet that comes out even just with all this. Maybe it is just the CME stuff, the institutional people pushing this around. But it looks very much like a black swan type event thing going on.
Yeah, people are getting more bullish by the hour right now. I'm not sure that I would say we're out of the woods, but we're nearing 11K at the time of recording on a bounce back, where on the daily yesterday, Binance went all the way down to 90.35, which was funny. So the new money panicked quicker than anybody.
Which is expected.
Yeah, that's a $900 difference from Coinbase's low even. But then today we reached a lower low of 90.85 on Coinbase. So it's possible, like if I was to put this on Heikin-Ashi or something, like it would definitely not show like an end to the trend, the downward trend yet. So you're still catching knives if you're buying right now, but there is a pretty nice wick, really on both of these dailies. But yeah, like when you go into Heikin-Ashi, it's interesting. There's no definite sign of it being done, I guess is the point.
Yeah, no, you're not going to see any strong reversal signs on higher time frames here. You're going to see things like inverted head and shoulders or Adam Eve, stuff like that on low time frames. You're going to see bull divs building, which is basically showing that momentum's petering out here. So, which isn't surprising.
Let's assume that you are out of the market with the majority of your Bitcoin at 1,400 or 14,000. Whenever you were talking about kind of seeing those signs, let's say someone got out of the market and now they're looking to get back in, or they have fiat and they're trying to buy in for the first time. Catching 9,000, 9,100, 9,500, like you have to be on your game and buying knives a little bit to have done so. But now there are some signs to me that say like, okay, the market is looking good for partial entry here, there, or whatever. What kind of stuff are you looking at in terms of scaling back in? Like, would you already scale in based on what you've seen, or would you be like all the way in, or like what are the various signs you're looking for to re-enter confidently?
So the first thing I always look at is divs and which time frame I can find them. So like I was posting on Twitter about there was a 30-minute div, now there's a 2-hour div. So you see these divs building. There's probably even going to be a high time frame hidden bull div. So we're going to get a higher low on more momentum or something. Yeah, so all that's a giant div right there. But So that's the first thing I look for, just to say, I'm not crazy here. Momentum is slowing. You can turn on volume too. You'll see volume decreasing usually. Sometimes you see a giant volume spike with a reversal candle. Kind of like the best case scenario, the most obvious thing. Just because then you realize that the emotional stuff is gone. People who are going to sell have capitulated and are done. The selling is over. The people who were thinking about selling and actually did sell, they've sold. We haven't really seen that yet, but we are seeing
this is
a
pretty
lower
brutal.
low.
This is pretty brutal on these 30 minutes. Like the big sell volume was under 10K, and then immediately followed by huge buy volume. Just makes me sad for whoever sells Bitcoin for under 10,000 right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's people, like I said, people emotionally not sure what to do, which is a lot of people. But yeah, no, I was buying all the way down. So I bought a lot below. I think 10.1 was like my big entry, but
yeah, so we run out of our bull div definitely on the 4 hour. I'm not sure if it's on the 3 hour. Not really.
No, not really. So the 2 hour.
2 hours kind of the maximum time frame where we're showing a bull div still. Yeah. So that looks pretty good.
It's bouncing nicely on that, but doesn't mean it can't
retest.
Keep going. Yeah, I mean that candle over candle buying selling is ugly too. On the 2 hour there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that too often. For me, when I see that, it's usually algo driven. So I don't really know what that's about. Just people buying. It's like accumulation distribution type stuff. So the stupid money's selling, the smart money's buying. That's what I see. but maybe that's just my bias.
Yeah. So I look at this sometimes. I shared this on Twitter as well. Like for me, I'd be looking at the 30 minute and the 1 hour. When can it jump over the Tinkin? So just like when it's in a bull market, when it's in a downtrend, it's going to ride that Tinkin and have resistance on the bottom side. So we've seen, as of recording, the 30 minute and the 1 hour are pushing above the Tinkin, but they're not. 30 minute even has tackled the Kijun now. So like, to me, those are signs of like, okay, we can think about easing back in. Of course, that can completely retest and fall back below. But since this fell out of that triangle, 14,000, we've gone $4,000 completely below the Tinkin. So to me, that's another sign of like safer entry, not too crazy with that kind of entry to start scaling in. But
yeah, because even there, like retrospectively looking at it, there's that 30 minute candle to 1200 was a giant shooting star, which preceded all this downward selling further.
Yeah, so essentially, when you say the shooting star, this is a low time frame candle, 30 minutes is what we're looking at here, and huge wick up. So whoever bought it up, there were plenty of sellers to knock that back down, basically.
And not only is it a shooting star, but there's also a Kijun bounce to the bearish side there. So
yeah,
we're not seeing that now. Now we're seeing, like you said, buying above the Kijun, buying to the Kijun on that time frame, and then on the hourly,
no real wick on that either.
No real wick, not yet anyway. And on the hourly, there's a nice spinning top at the bottom of that, which is a equal wicked candle, basically.
And that's basically the tip of the divergence as well. So
yeah,
that's pretty nice. That would have been a nice one to buy. And it was a third touch, basically.
Yeah, it was. So you'll see stuff like that on low time frames, and on high time frames, and like on the daily, you're going to see a giant wick, like a $2,000 wick at least, when we get an actual reversal. I mean, just look at the BitConnect wick from August 2016. That was what percentage that was, I don't even know. That was a giant reversal. I mean, look at that wick we had just the other day on the 19th. That wick was massive. That might have been the biggest wick we ever had, percentage-wise.
Yeah, the 22nd, I think.
22nd, yeah.
Yeah, so on that one, it looked like it could have been the end. And what that was a test of the daily Kijun and and then some. And it got bought up super quick. I actually thought, thinking back to when that was, I thought that might have been the end of the dip, which would have been very impressive. But we weren't quite done yet. Had a few days of recovery, a lot of sideways, a lot of opportunity for alts to run for people that were looking at it in that sense. Overall, too, we have RSI on a daily time frame way down 35. So giving it, and that doesn't happen a lot in Bitcoin. Bitcoin lives way up above on the RSI. So a kind of a natural cooling down period is what this looks like, in the sense of how we might look at this several months from now, as it was needed and helpful and necessary, and the fundamental stuff basically just helped come to this, right? So like, it didn't really necessarily matter what the fundamental news was, but we got some to help spur the correction.
Right.
What about in the broader sense? Like, let's say we're not done, okay? Like, we don't know the future. Maybe by the time we publish this podcast, we will have hit 8K. We have another big something or whatever that causes another spike down. What makes you start thinking in a bearish sense long term? So like, we have, there's the parabola that people love to point at.
That's Dunsky.
Yeah, at what point?
In my opinion.
What's that?
In my opinion, the parabola's over, which is fine with me. It doesn't need to keep speeding up. It can chill out for a little while.
Oh, you're saying the parabola is already broken?
Yeah, I think so on this candle. I look at the big thing is the 200 on the daily. That like that. If we break below that and hold there, then you can say the bull trend is over. Until that happens, everything is bullish. The other thing you look at is cloud. So go ahead. Sorry.
I want to get back to the parabola. That's fascinating to me.
Okay.
I know people that think when the parabola is done, like when the parabola is broken, the market's in for a hard time for a long time. It's
possible, but I just don't see the parabola holding up here.
And it should be noted, you can kind of draw a parabola however you want.
Yeah, you can.
It's just a curved line, but we're on a log scale. The one that I've drawn historically, I kind of pinned to the lows of crashing from the 13 zone. When I do that, when I pin it to the lows, to me it doesn't seem quite done, but it came close. Like, to me, the parabola can hold up really all the way down to maybe 7,500, 8,000. But it's either way, that 200 is basically along the parabola line, from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's what it seems like to me. But are you generally of the opinion that the parabola can break and Bitcoin can remain bullish? Because that's somewhat.
I am personally. I was never a parabola person anyway.
Okay.
So I'm more of an EMA, because again, like you said, you can draw it however you want to draw it. So maybe there are rules that I just don't know about, but the EMA is the biggest thing. The 200. The next thing is the price below cloud. And holding there. If price does go to 8K, it's going to have to bounce to the key June eventually. Even if you look at the stuff post Gox, we bounced back to the key June. So if you're worried about getting it out, that's when you'd be looking to get out.
On the rejection bounce from the other side.
Right.
Let's zoom to the weekly, because...
Yeah, and that's the other thing. The weekly's right on the key June here. Like, exactly on the key June, the bounce. So
yeah. Well, I remember watching it and thinking, oh, this is below the key June now. And it was a little terrifying for a moment.
Yeah, I agree. When we hover anywhere near that, I get nervous for sure.
And this is also
a high time frame.
I was looking at BLX. If you look at today, it still looks pretty nasty.
Yeah, it does. Because we haven't closed below that since
The whole
2015.
bull run, yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, so if we got a weekly close below the Kijun, that's worth being worried, right?
For me, yeah. Because then we squirrel around in that white space between the Kijun and the cloud, and that
and it's a very thin cloud.
That's the cloud shape is whatever at this point, but
sure. The point is it's down at 3,000.
Right. The distance to the cloud is something I don't like seeing.
Right. So back to the parabola, moving averages, and weekly cloud.
Yeah.
I think that's worth talking about. And PizPie, who was my guest co-host while you were gone, or Nick, so he kind of seemed to be of the opinion that Bitcoin will just sort of stabilize, like there won't be some big epic crash of 85, 90% like there was in 2014. What you're saying actually kind of makes me think that you believe similarly. So like if the trend slowed, it would actually give the cloud more time to thicken up, if you will. And for the cloud to catch up to the price, and for the Tinkin Kijun cloud to all kind of get a little closer and create more of a, I guess, established trend line that's not so parabolic. So the parabola breaks, but the cloud support gets thicker. The trend is a little more stable in that sense. Is that something that you think is possible?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, moving averages catch up with themselves, things like that. But that doesn't mean it can't go to 5K or whatever. It's basically at support here on several different metrics. It could go a little lower based on the 200. Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned. Even if it goes down to 5K, I'm not concerned.
Yeah, well, that's because you didn't buy it 19.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
the new money in the world would probably be concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we have to wash out a bunch of people to make this over with. I like the RSI at 50 there.
On the weekly.
On the weekly, because we've bounced from the 50 on the RSI pretty consistently, and that horizontal.
Although there is a huge bear div on the weekly, technically.
From what?
From back here, kinda.
I don't see it. Maybe you have to draw it out, but I don't see it.
Sure.
I mean, we got higher highs in RSI. We got higher highs in price. Like if we get a hidden bull div on the weekly, that would be awesome, because then what we would get is a higher low in price and a lower RSI. So it's trying to get there now. I don't know what RSI is. Can you scale up the RSI there on the right side? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's right there at that point where I don't know. Like I said, it's at support. It's at 50. It wants it to bounce. We'll see what happens. I don't think the trend's in any threat at the moment.
Cool. That's good to know. I kind of the reason I dig into that a little bit is because I wonder, there seems to be a divide between like true believers and investors just looking to ride this until the bubble bounces and then they peace out. You know what I mean?
Which is fine. Just like, that's fine. I don't care. You can trade however you want to trade it,
Sure. I wonder if it means there's an alternative where things just settle down. And we don't have the direct correlation to a tech bubble or, like any other thing really that you want to past bubble that you want to compare it to. And to me, that would be the best case scenario, like a stabilized price in Bitcoin, I would prefer. So if there's a good case for that, then that would be exciting to me, because I would prefer not to have to stress out about a mega top and big bubble that bursts and all that stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah. I mean, we pulled back farther than the 50% at this point. Based off the recent time frames. So how much more do you want?
Sure.
I mean, it could keep going. That's fine, but I'm not shorting here. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's wrap things up with what we expect in 2018 from a fundamentals perspective. Sounds like both of us are relatively bullish on, if not a reversal exactly here, a reversal somewhere within this 8 to 10K range. But things to expect in early 2018. One that's already happened was the launch of Rootstock. If people are curious about that, Nick talked about it a good bit in the episode we did a couple of weeks ago, which enables smart contracts with Bitcoin. So that was pretty cool. Not sure if that's what impact that'll have on the smart contracts market, but brings additional capabilities to Bitcoin. Certainly not bearish. And then Lightning Network stuff. I keep hearing that the Lightning Network is closer than it seems. What do you know about that?
I'd agree. If it's on testnet or mainnet or whatever, it's a network, so it needs nodes, and there aren't that many nodes right now. I don't know. I'm not really. It's coming. That's all I know. Really, like definitively. I'm not too concerned about. Even like fees, I'm not too concerned about. I'll grumble about it when I'm sending coins back and forth, but
that seems
to sell all my Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash is a little silly.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the things that a lot of people, if they were to give a fundamentally bearish outlook on Bitcoin, they would say like this is not sustainable, even really as a store of value, just because it's all these network concerns and whatever. If something like the Lightning Network were to come quickly within the first quarter or two of 2018, and it was well adopted, that would be a huge bullish impetus, I would think, if you can suddenly send money really cheaply just with Bitcoin and not with all these other altcoins or whatever that you have to. That I personally prefer sending money with right now.
Yeah, I think that Lightning Network's got a year on it minimum till we see any real impact. I think it's good that it's ready to go, but I don't think it's going to be like super active or impactful immediately.
And then something we've seen over the past week or so, but I imagine we're going to see more of it, is hash rate. Can you talk a little bit for people that may not be familiar, just like what the heck is the influence of hash rate? What does it mean? Because you write about this a good bit, but I don't think a lot of people get it.
Yeah, so I randomly was like looking for stuff to talk about, and I was like, oh, let's talk about mining today. And like putting all the pieces together, basically, there's a bunch of hardware, just like technological innovations that have allowed for advancements in hardware in ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits, which mine Bitcoin, that bring hash rate to the network. All that stuff's coming online by like March this year, 2018. So we're going to see maybe not all of the hash rate comes to Bitcoin, but a majority of it probably is. We're going to see a huge jump in hash rate, which says to me anyway that there are enough people who are spending millions of dollars and believe that this thing's going to be around for a little while to set up all this hardware and geographic space and management of it's a huge time commitment to put in all this money into a mining operation and then have something just die out completely. So I'm super bullish writing and reading about that stuff because that says people are putting their money where their mouth is. And not only that, but they're keeping the network more secure just based on the decentralized aspect of that.
Yeah, so the more different, the more new entities that are coming online to be Bitcoin miners, you're spreading out reliance, I guess, for the network. So you're not just relying on Bitmain or whoever as like a big hash rate provider.
Right. I liked how Drac basically fed up with Bitmain, decides to do his own thing, and makes a mining company and starts selling miners. Like,
yeah, it's pretty
not
amazing.
only am I a core developer, but I'm selling miners because that's how much I believe in this project. And that wasn't like an overnight thing either, like, because the technological innovations were from how long mining or wherever they're getting their chips from, because that's a new all-time high in hash rate per miner, however you want to say it, hash rate per energy usage. And yes, it's real. There are people saying like, "Oh, this is just a scam," blah blah blah. But no, I've seen it. It's real. I haven't seen the physical miner, but I've seen enough about it, and I've talked to enough people who know enough about it to know that it's not a scam.
So people thought that the machine itself was a scam potentially.
Yeah, they thought the machine was a scam. The stats were a scam. Which is fine. I'm a huge proponent of everything in crypto is a scam until it's proven otherwise. So yeah, I mean, the mining stuff is huge, and typically, from memory anyway, hash rate tends to precede moves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming in March, and then July should be the cyclical top again, when we'll see the next all-time high. So from January to July, we should see bottomy and toppy cycle again, which is currently fitting where it should be.
Yeah. So basically, we're both in agreement that the future is still bright.
Yeah.
The trend is not broken. Buy when it's low. And yeah, this is probably a pretty good time to get into Bitcoin if you have friends and family that have been waiting.
And there are even other things in the pipeline like Mimblewimble and Schnorr signatures and Mast and all this other stuff.
What's Mimblewimble?
I think Mimblewimble is going to be an ICO. I'm not really sure, but part of that is more secure and private transactions. I think it's going to be a sidechain as well. The point is, there's people pouring engineering stuff into the Bitcoin protocol in some way. So it's, I saw this tweet that Bitcoin's dead and development's dead. And I get people all the time telling me like, everyone's so excited at the Ethereum conferences. There are so many more people who go to these dev meetings compared to Bitcoin. It's like, well, I think it's easier to get in on the ground for Ethereum or altcoins in general. I think you need to know a little bit more about stuff to get in on Bitcoin development. So I wouldn't gauge that as like the litmus test for success. Who shows up at the dev meetings, conferences, in the audience. But
well, crap. Oh no, he didn't delete it. I thought Roger Ver deleted his tweet saying Bitcoin is BCH. According to Roger Ver, though, Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin now. He just came out and said it. So
yeah, he's been saying that since August. So it's nothing new. I am glad that Bitcoin Cash dropped with Bitcoin, because if it didn't,
it would have been more annoying.
There'd be no end to that.
Yeah. I would like to see that conversation die down in general this year, if I'm talking about what I would like to see.
Yeah, for sure.
And a big bull run from Bitcoin would certainly be helpful. And in addition to lowering fees and whatnot. Another thing I'd like to see is more of these exchanges start to adopt some of the existing features and the new ones to be able to make this stuff easier. One other piece of news that we didn't mention was, I guess, Coinbase stopped deposits and withdrawals for a short period of time, and basically the network cleared. Like, they were essentially, because of their engineering practices and the fact that they're such a large part of the market, they were a huge influence on the clogging of the network. So they seem to have plenty of engineering work they themselves could do that would improve the network. So I would like to see them finally just own up to that. And that probably takes customer pressure as much as anything.
I don't think it cleared, but it was clearing. Like, it was,
it showed
the unconfirms were dropping.
Yeah, it was an immediate impact.
Yeah. So their footprint is probably bigger than anybody at this point, even Bitfinex. And as far as the network's concerned, just because the way, like you said, their practices and interactions with the network directly do not make it advantageous for them to send small transactions all over the place. Which is what they're doing. So
that's what they're doing. So last thing, so the last 2 weeks, we haven't done coin of the week. We've done trading advice of the week.
Oh, man.
But we can do either one this week. I'm going to do a coin of the week. You can do whatever you want.
I saw ZRX pulled back a lot. I haven't really been watching it too much, but
so you ended up with a position in ZRX, right?
Yeah. I'm just holding it because I think it's going to end up on Coinbase this year. If we're talking about things that are going to end up somewhere. Wow, that looks crazy to see it. I haven't looked at it in a while.
ZRX is now my largest bag.
So ZRX is doing well. XRP already XRP'd itself, so
crippled.
My coin of the week, crippled. It tripled and it crippled. I don't know if I have a coin of the week this week. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying if you have one. But yeah,
okay.
So ZRX on the Bitcoin chart, depending on where you anchor your fibs, is kind of resting over the 1.618. I don't know why I chose right here for this fib. Maybe just because that's where it broke down, really. Depends on how you look at it. Looks kind of, if you look at it from like the listing high, then it kind of reached the 1.618 versus Bitcoin. Versus the dollar, ZRX went insane. Either way, good gains on that one. I haven't sold any yet. I probably should have, but I didn't.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So you don't have a coin of the week? You don't want to call it ZRX?
I mean, it already pumped up a bunch. I just don't have anything right now.
Right.
We're just trying to survive.
Just trying to survive. Well, I'm going to share one because it's held up pretty well during this dump, and I like where it is relative to pretty much everything.
Sorry. Bitcoin is my coin of the week.
Bitcoin is your coin of the week. Save it.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So mine, I'm going to go with Bancor, or BNT. This fit a similar trajectory of other ICOs where it was a large, heavily bought ICO that got listed and then proceeded to go down for months. And I think it's either just now or like until recently was basically at or below the ICO price relative to Bitcoin. Since it bottomed, which was the same place as most coins with like that first week of December, it has been on this really nice, steady upward trend line. It broke out of the daily cloud. It broke above the 50, the 100, and the 200. And on this Bitcoin dump, it has also dumped, but it's been really strong. And it's above the cloud. It's above the 200 moving average. I like it. So I'm putting some of my other altcoin positions into this. It's going to be a larger percentage of my holdings, if you will. So I like Bancor. And their product is nice.
Looks good there.
Yeah, and their product is nice as well.
What is it exactly? I can't remember.
It's kind of like Shapeshift without all the centralization. So it's a coin swapper.
Oh, okay.
And from some friends that have used it, I've heard that it's really pretty impressive what they do from a liquidity standpoint. So you can put pretty large orders in and not have any slippage. So for certain types of buys, or if you just want access to tokens to quickly swap them, it can be good. So I like it. I'm holding on to it. I'll let it ride for a little while.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Where can people keep up with you? What do you have going on the next couple of weeks? All that stuff.
I'm on YouTube eventually, so one of these days when I get around to making a video again.
I made a YouTube video. I felt like a little miniature Carpe Noctem.
There you go. I watched it, actually. It was pretty good. You should do yourself a favor, everybody, and subscribe and like on that. No, Twitter, YouTube, put out a massive article in Medium about trading, my tips and tricks. People keep asking me, what books do I read, blah, blah, blah. it's always better to trade with real money than read any book in my mind. So yeah, you need some like baseline knowledge, but there's no book that's gonna like help you master the market, in my opinion. It's all muscle memory and trading memory. Yeah, you just got to lose money a bunch and then make the right decisions after that.
Cool. And then for me, I have a thing that I've been working on, and you can go to ledgerstatus.com/learn to check that out. It's a education series, if you will, for people looking to dig in and create a baseline. So explain it to me like I'm 5 type of deal. But then we'll also go into more immediate stuff, potentially provide some community, definitely in an alpha stage, trying to create the initial material. Some will always be free. Some will be a paid upsell. So if people are interested in learning more about trading, and if a lot of what Josh and I talked about today was over your head, it would help it not be over your head if I had to do the short version. So go check that out, and we will catch y'all next time. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Brian.
Monuments crumble.